The July 4th weekend traditionally is an occasion for celebration. But for the Googin family of upper state New York, Independence Day will be remembered as a time of tragedy. On that day, the body of their 15-year-old son, Sean, was found in Lake Cazenovia. Opening up a murder case, senior investigator Dennis Doherty of the New York State Police still has under investigation.
Cazenovia, New York, a quaint lakeside village known for its year-round natural beauty. But the community remains shaken since the summer 3 years ago when 15-year-old Sean Googin was murdered. On July 3rd, 1992, at 11:30 p.m., Sean finished washing dishes at the local inn. He was planning to meet his family by the lake, where a 4th of July carnival was closing for the night. New York State Police Senior Investigator Dennis Doherty, a close friend of Sean's family, was with them on that fateful night.
Sometime prior to the end of that evening, Jan mentioned to my wife that her 15-year-old son, Sean, was supposed to meet them at the park but hadn't arrived as yet, and she was kind of concerned.
Sean was going to walk the half-mile from the inn to the lake.
He said, "I'll be fine, Mom. I can walk down there. It's a short distance. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me."
He never made it.
Instantly, I said, "Something is wrong. I just know something's wrong." He wouldn't not show up. We drove to our home, and I talked to my daughter, Amy, and I said, "Amy, maybe, did you pick Sean up? I thought maybe he called."
He would have definitely called. He was very responsible. I would say, like any other 15-year-old, though, you might, have some other plans and, not tell your parents exactly where you're going, but give them an idea so they're not always wondering.
And at approximately 2 a.m., I received a phone call from Bob Googin, and Bob was concerned because Sean hadn't returned home. We spent the remainder of that night, early morning hours, looking for Sean throughout the village.
We traced what might have been his steps, drove the path he would have. Obviously, we drove right by the scene because it was just a few hundred feet away from us.
Every time the clock ticked, we became more concerned. And by mid-afternoon on the 4th, we realized that we really had a very serious problem.
A search had just begun when 2 boaters discovered Sean's body just offshore.
We were there when they actually found him. I can't even explain the feeling of that, and finding out that it was him, and just such shock that I didn't want to believe that it was really him. And I kept saying that I wanted, this can't be him. Please tell me that it's not him.
Sean was wearing an Army fatigue jacket. When they unzipped the jacket, they found large rocks had been placed inside the jacket. And of course, then we knew that Sean was a victim of a homicide.
Having to face my mother was probably one of the hardest things, is seeing her reaction.
I was listening to everything they were telling me, and I just said, I can remember thinking, they don't really know what they're talking about. I couldn't even grasp it. I don't know when it hit me that that's what happened. It just didn't seem real.
An autopsy revealed that Sean had been strangled. Senior Investigator Doherty was assigned the case.
One of the first things we found was a small rubber ball. We later found that Sean did always carry this particular ball with him. And right next to that ball, we found a Timex watch, a rather inexpensive Timex watch that had a gold face and a silver band. The band had been broken, and what we have determined was our suspect in all likelihood was wearing that watch, and during the struggle, the watch was torn from his wrist.
Investigators found the murder scene.
We found a matted down area in a flower bed. It appeared to us that that area was consistent with the size and shape of a human body. We feel that Sean had been thrown into that flower bed for a period of time, and then his body was later removed.
A canoe was stolen from the shoreline.
We believe that they used that canoe and placed Sean's body in the canoe on the shoreline, pushed the canoe into the water, and then paddled out to where Sean's body was later found.
A sharpened cake knife was also found in the water. Although not used in the attack, there was a latent fingerprint that could be the killer's. One man who saw Sean heading for the lake may have unknowingly witnessed events leading up to the murder.
He described them as three young men, late teens, early 20s, as being involved in horseplay, and that two of the men were apparently in some type of a fight. One of the men ran into this wooded area. The second one followed and tackled him. The third person then ran from the scene. That led us to believe that possibly the perpetrator or perpetrators may be Sean's age, possibly even friends of Sean's.
With trace evidence left behind on the corpse, the investigation turned to Sean's friends and high school classmates who willingly underwent DNA testing. English teacher Virginia Hall.
Imagine being 15, 16, 17 years old and being suspected of this.
The students were eventually ruled out as suspects, as were carnival workers from the lake that night.
I think that whole summer after it happened, that was a major topic of conversation, and people had theories and ideas. I think people are mystified right now. They just don't know.
Investigator Doherty believes the killer may have been a recent acquaintance of the teenager.
Sean mentioned to one of his co-workers, an older fellow working at the kitchen, that he had some plans for that evening, and asked the co-worker if he was interested in what his plans were. And unfortunately, the co-worker said, "No, I don't care what you're going to do tonight." We feel that that could be the key. If Sean had told this young man what his plans were, we might not have an open homicide right now.
The town hasn't forgotten what happened on the 4th of July, 1992. The town no longer has an annual carnival, and Cazenovia High School has erected a memorial to Sean. When Real Stories returns, a grieving family tries to cope with the murder of a beloved son.